Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into Robert Keegan's totally fascinating research on adult learning and the intense psychological demands of the modern workplace. You know, adult life has this hidden curriculum. It's essentially a set of unspoken expectations in our jobs, our relationships, and just society in general that constantly ask us to adapt and grow. We usually think of learning as just, memorizing new facts or picking up a new software tool. But what happens when the challenge we face requires us to fundamentally change who we are and how we actually think?
Well, let's get into this by starting with a crucial question that strikes right at the heart of this hidden curriculum. Why do some people totally thrive when faced with ambiguity at work, while others seem to just completely drown? Is it really just a matter of having the right skills on your resume, or is there something much, much deeper going on beneath the surface?
To figure that out, let's jump into part one. 2 employees, 1 problem, the tale of Peter and Lynn. To anchor this rather dense psychological theory, let's look at 2 experienced professionals who were both recently thrust into new, completely unstructured leadership roles. First, we have Lynn. She's a middle school English teacher placed on a collaborative council, and she adapts beautifully. When her principal makes a unilateral decision, Lynn relies on her own internal vision to challenge it constructively and set firm boundaries. Now compare that to Peter. Peter was suddenly promoted at his manufacturing job, and he straight up panics. He describes the experience as juggling 15 balls at once, completely consumed with trying to please his mentor and just manage his team's conflicting emotions. So what's the difference here? That brings us to part 2, informative versus transformative learning. Basically, filling the bucket versus changing the bucket entirely. To really understand why Lynn is succeeding and Peter is struggling so hard, we have to recognize the profound difference between 2 distinct types of learning. Informative learning pours new knowledge into an existing container. It increases our fund of knowledge, which is incredibly valuable, right? But transformative learning, that actually bends and changes the shape of the container itself. If the very shape of your mind isn't equipped to handle a new type of complexity, filling it with more facts simply is not going to help. The crucial takeaway here is that succeeding in modern adult life requires way more than just acquiring new skills. It requires an entirely new mindset. Peter doesn't just need some quick time management tips. He needs a radically new way of processing demands. Transformative learning puts the form itself at risk of change. It literally forces us to reconstruct our entire frame of reference. Which leads us to part 3, the power of epistemology, how we know what we know. To grasp transformative learning, we have to look at the actual form that is transforming, and that is our epistemology, or the very terms by which we make meaning. It's not the content of our thoughts, it's the lens through which we view the entire world. It's the hidden, underlying machinery that shapes our reality out of raw experience. Keegan uses this brilliant, game-changing phrasing to show our evolution. We gradually shift the things we are blindly subjected to into objects that we can actively control and evaluate. When a belief or a feeling is subject, it has us. We are totally run by it, fused with it, captive to it. We can't even see it because we're looking right through it. But when that belief becomes object, we finally have it. We can hold it at a distance, reflect on it, and actually take responsibility for it. Human development is simply the lifelong process of turning subject to object. Okay, let's map this out. In part 4, socialized versus self-authoring minds, mapping the psychological gap. Now we can finally reveal the specific psychological gap that separates our 2 protagonists. You see, we all traverse this vast, lifelong spectrum of epistemological stages, from the raw impulses of childhood all the way to the complex systems of the postmodern mind. Each shift is a massive evolutionary leap, where what was once subject becomes object. But today we're focusing on the leap right in the middle, moving from stage 3 to stage 4. This is the most common, yet arguably the most demanding transition of modern adulthood. So looking back at our managers, Peter is currently operating from the socialized mind. He's totally dependent on his mentor Anderson's approval. Lynn, on the other hand, has reached the self-authoring mind, allowing her to generate her own internal vision. Because Peter is in the socialized mind, he is literally written by the socializing press around him. What his colleagues expect of him becomes his entire identity. He can't untangle what he wants from what they want. Lynn, however, writes upon the socializing press. She hears the expectations of others, sure, but she evaluates them through her own sturdy internal compass. Now, we absolutely must remember that Peter's stage isn't inherently bad. Actually, scratch that. It's not bad at all. The socialized mind is a highly responsible and complex state that takes literally decades to achieve. I mean, look at these capabilities: thinking abstractly, engaging in deep introspection, subordinating short-term impulses to maintain relationships. For a teenager, arriving at the socialized mind is a monumental success. It means they value trust and community over simply getting their way. So Peter is a very successful learner. He hasn't failed in any way.
Peter's true struggle is simply that his perfectly dignifiable, socialized mindset is a complete mismatch for the adaptive challenge of modern leadership, which demands self-direction. The modern world requires us to navigate a dizzying array of competing demands, pluralism, and pure ambiguity. We simply have to win distance from the socializing press to survive it. Peter is facing a curriculum that his current epistemology just isn't designed to handle.
So what do we do about this? Let's talk about it in Part 5, Building Bridges for Learners, Fostering True Transformation. As educators, managers, and leaders, how do we actually help people like Peter without just throwing them to the wolves? Peter's boss, Anderson, thought he was empowering Peter by backing off, but because he ignored where Peter actually was developmentally, it created a bewildering, terrifying vacuum. Anderson expected Peter to just automatically come up with his own strategic plans, but to Peter, this felt like total abandonment. We cannot become so fixated on the far side of the bridge, the self-authoring employee we desperately want, that we completely ignore the reality of where the person is currently standing. To safely guide someone through a transformative learning process, we have to follow 3 absolutely crucial rules for building developmental bridges. First, you have to know which bridge the learner is actually crossing. Second, you must understand how far along they are. Peter, for instance, is very much still on the near side, super hesitant to step forward. And third, the bridge must be firmly anchored on both sides. We have to honor and respect the strength the learner has already gained in their current mindset before asking them to completely blow up their worldview. We must respect that asking a learner to shift into a self-authoring mind means asking them to put their deepest loyalties at risk. That process is going to feel painful and rebellious. For Peter to become a self-directing leader, he has to alter his relationship to the public authority of his mentor and his friends. That is a terrifying voyage. To him, asserting his own vision over Anderson's expectations won't feel like some triumphant moment of empowerment. It'll feel like flat-out mutiny. We have to hold space for the serious emotional cost of transformation. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to really reflect on regarding your own stage of adult development and the hidden curriculum operating in your life right now. We are all engaged in this relentless, lifelong process of meaning-making. We are constantly stepping into environments that demand more complexity than we currently possess. So take a hard look at the pressures in your career and your relationships today. What assumptions or beliefs are currently having you? And what would it look like if you finally transformed so that you could have them? Tell me, which bridge are you currently crossing?